On this week's episode of the Geek State, Commissioner Gordon is getting his own show on HBO Max, and Spider-Man is getting a visitor from 2004.
We review the preview of Mortal Kombat.
We welcome the guys from the Two Fat Guys Pool List to discuss the state of Marvel, from the comics to the ever-expanding MCU. All that and more on this episode of the Geek State.
Cold-blooded murder is making Mortal Kombat the most popular video game in history. Kids relish their victory and their bloody choice. Should they pull out their opponent's heart? Or simply rip his head off just to see his spinal cord dangle in a pool of blood? How do you feel about cutting his head off? One.
Stand by alert.
This is it.
To beat this podcast quickly, just hit up, up, down, down, left, right, BA. This is the Geek State.
Welcome, everybody, to a brand new episode of The Geek State, the podcast about all the cool stuff going on in the world of geek that is of interest to us, and we think you'll like it as well. Joining me, as always, my good buddy, James. James, sir, it is good to be back here in the saddle with you, and we've got a great show.
It is great to be here. My allergies are acting up because we live in Texas, and changes temperature 40 degrees in a day. So,
yeah, last episode, I think we were rocking, high 90s, and then woke up to about, what was it, like 30, 40?
Yeah,
something?
Not a big deal.
This is for you, Armando, just by the way, just enjoying our Texas weather broadcast here.
Absolutely.
Bringing it to you on the 10s all the time. We do have an awesome show. We have guests this week, and just to keep them from having to stay quiet this whole time, I'll go ahead and introduce them. We've got our friends over at the Two Fat Guys Pool List, an awesome YouTube show about what's going on in the comics. And they're responsible for recent purchases of mine. So thank you a lot. Welcome to the show. We've got James, and then we also have Nate. Welcome to the show, guys.
What's up?
How's it going?
You're so chill. What's up? Nah, man, we're cool.
Also, I have to say I'm sorry that I've made you buy more things now. When we first started our friendship, I got you buying Star Wars action figures.
You reignited. That's the thing. So it wasn't like you put something in my heart that wasn't already there. It's just I had come to terms with never buying any more action figures. Then Darth Vader shows up on my desk at work, and I was like, oh, damn it.
And now I've done it with comics.
And now you've done it with comics. Thankfully, though, with comics, I've got Marvel Unlimited. So
there you
unless I'm like, oh, I gotta have this one now because I really like the cover, or it's less about what y'all are super into. Y'all know so much about the artists and the writers and all of that. I'm just like, I like the cover, and I want to put that somewhere in my room.
Ooh, that panel is cool.
Yeah, because for the story and stuff, I'm okay with spending the $10 a month on Marvel Unlimited and waiting. Now it's only there's 3 months.
Yeah, I think so.
3 months.
Yeah, 3 month delay now.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'll probably move you up more as we continue to progress through the year.
That's true. This has a lot to do with just the fact that they had nothing to add.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that makes sense.
But anyways, it's good to have you guys on. We're going to be talking about Marvel and comics. We've got, we got the Shang-Chi Legend of the Ten Rings trailer that came out this week, which was awesome. We've got a ton of Marvel stuff on the horizon, and I'm just curious to know what's coming, in terms of comics and what to look out for. And that kind of thing, because I've seen y'all talk about a few things on the show, so it'd be good to kind of touch base in the world of comics here on the Geek State here. James, before we move any further, I want to just give you an opportunity to talk about the repercussions of what happens when you do a podcast about vintage non-sport trading cards, because I know that following our program last week, you've had some new acquisitions.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just get on eBay and you go to the non-sports trading cards unopened boxes category, and you see some ones that have been listed for a long time, and they have make an offer, and you cut what they're asking in half. And sometimes they say yes, and sometimes they say no and send you something rude. But in this occurrence, I had a few that said yes, and I've signed on to buy a box of Sequest cards. Because I didn't know they existed until Mr. Chris talked about it. And I have to have a special card on my stream to open up twitch.tv/SGJames, just in case Chris stops by and does a sub. He needs a very special card set to open up, and now we have that. So
do I get the opportunity of just telling you to open that pack? Do I have to play the game?
How it will work for you is that you have the option of a Sequest pack or one pack from the box. We will draw that pack, and then you make your decision there. I don't think that decision is ever going to need to be made. I think it's always going to be Sequest. So if you'd like to just say now that you just want Sequest, that's fine too.
Oh, we can keep the charade up. We can make it seem as if I have to pick from what column, and then
it's almost like the end of the show when we do the things that we like, and we we pretend like one of these days you're going to go first.
I'm never going first. What are you talking about? I got to go first. That one time. But it's funny because I heard from a bunch of other people who listened to the show that were like, thanks a lot, because I ended up going to our storage unit to dig out my old cards. And I'm like, you're welcome. That's what the show's about. It's about encouraging to enjoy the things that you like and to
it's about encouraging you to get yelled at by your wife.
We hope that didn't happen. Speaking of collectibles, James, we now have our own very limited series of
NFT?
collectibles.
Oh,
no. But you know what? That's funny because I was talking to Jay Shepard on Twitter, who does a ton of podcasts. He does a podcast that I really like called Superhero Suite. And we were talking trading cards, NFTs, and I was like, we should totally get into, maybe not NFT, but just do our own line of digital collectors, to like collectible items. I don't know what that means or how we'll do it, but I think that would be fun to explore. No, we have stickers.
Oh, that's like the same thing, but physical.
Yeah. They're physical collector. It's very limited.
Are they backed by a chain block or just chain in a block?
It's a chain and a block, which makes them really expensive to ship, guys. Like I did not think this through. This was like a test run. Like I wanted to test out, interest level, and I posted to Twitter, and usual suspects always, they chimed in, and as I hoped. And I'm going to have to order some more, but right now we've got a very limited supply, and I'll tell you about how you can get one at the end of the show. So that's kind of a tease to stick around. I want to give these out. No one's going to have to buy these. Basically, I just don't have enough to give it to everybody who wants one.
I'll take one.
I already pulled y'all one. It's okay.
Sweet.
I got y'all. Like literally there's not that many left after the good buddy list is all taken care of. Let's briefly talk about Mortal Kombat, and James and Nathan jump in too, because we're recording this the day before it comes out on HBO Max, so we have not seen it. So where are we just mentally about Mortal Kombat? We'll start with James.
James number one.
James number two. You know what? We'll just can we just all be James for this show? Just make it really confusing.
Sure, James number four.
Let's go. James. Wait, no. If I get, that's fine.
Okay, I'll kick it off. Right. I'm super excited. I'm a huge Mortal Kombat fan, to the point where I won't watch the original one because I know it'll probably ruin my image of Mortal Kombat. But I'm super excited for it. I saw the first 7 minutes on YouTube yesterday, and I figured I knew what to expect. And then when it ended, I was pretty much in shock. So I'm super pumped for it.
Nate, what about you?
My Mortal Kombat experience is pretty limited to playing the arcade games when I went to CC's Pizza. But listening to the really awesome soundtrack, I think I've seen the original movie once, so I'm actually pretty excited to get to experience Mortal Kombat pretty much for the first time. I'm not familiar with the story here, so
I'm with you too, Nate. I have most of my experience was the Super Nintendo Genesis era of Mortal Kombat, and I only know how to do Sub-Zero's special moves. Like that's it. I learned just how to do, I don't even know what it's called, or the freeze thing. And that's all I can do. That's literally the only move I can do. So I'm going in a little blind when it comes to the lore.
I am 100% in on this. I'm very excited for it. I, unlike James number 2, have recently rewatched both Mortal Kombat and Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
That's a bold move.
They're both just as dirty as I remember them.
Yep.
It's not a tough watch, but it's not an easy one. If you know, I unfortunately know way more than I care to admit about Mortal Kombat lore. So much so that I'm about 98% sure how this movie is going to play out. I have not watched the first 7 minutes of this movie, but I'm very excited for probably the beginning of Act 3 when Sub-Zero stabs Scorpion, blood spurts out of his back. He turns that into a blood dagger and stabs him with it. I'm pretty excited for that.
So you admit that you've seen a trailer?
I have seen a trailer. I watch all trailers once. Come on now.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. I just want to make sure.
It's a one-time watch. That's why it's hard to talk about trailers on the podcast, because James is like a one and done. He can't review it.
I can't frame by frame. I can't watch the 14-minute video on what I missed on a 30-second trailer. I just can't do it.
And I'm the complete opposite. I'm like,
me too.
Everything you missed on this episode of WandaVision. It's like, could this mailbox be Mephisto? I don't know. Let's find out. You know what? Before we move into news, something that kind of happened with Godzilla versus Kong was the differencing. There was some difference of opinion on, like, is this a good movie, or is it exactly what it needs to be? Because in our opinion on the show, it delivered what we wanted. We wanted just Kong versus Godzilla. We wanted them to fight, and we got mostly a movie about that. What does Mortal Kombat, this brand new version, have to do to be good? In your opinion, like, what does it have to do to kind of satisfy what you want out of a Mortal Kombat?
I think it's, with the first film, I think it accomplished it being structured to the lore of the game. And then the second one just got out of hand completely. And unfortunately, I read a review before the show, and someone, I think it was on Nerdist, and they kind of broke it down. And for all extensive purposes, it seems like the movie does that. It keeps true to the lore, but then they've added a new character that was solely produced for the film. Right. So I know that there's a lot of fans that are kind of very hardcore fans that are very concerned with that character, and that he may actually get in the way of diehard Mortal Kombat fans that know the lore, that have played all the games, that have an extensive knowledge within their brains of the game. So that would be, for me, I think that's actually kind of a concern as well, just because I'm so attached to the game itself. And also, like what Nate said, like, that soundtrack, whenever I hear that, I'm like, hell yeah, let's go. And I'm just that's the only, like, when the first trailer dropped, I was a little worried about, like, well, who the hell's that? And then when you do watch the, 15-minute movie of the breakdown of the trailer, everyone's like, this guy's new, and is he going to ruin the movie? And, like, that would be my only concern.
This guy may or may not be new, but that's my hot take.
Okay. Hey, no, that's incredibly valid. And I think it's important to have, like, a hero. Like, you have to be able to go through this experience with a person that kind of represents your, not yourself, but it's the hero's journey. It's the character that the audience sees the movie through. And I think you can go wrong by making it a character that you have preconceived notions about. I think that's one of the reasons why, like, on the Clone Wars, I think Ahsoka ended up working, because she became the eyes for the audience, that we saw the events taking place through her, and we watched her grow up as, especially when it came down to kids watching it, the kids grew up with her, and saw her grow as they grew themselves. And so I'm okay with it. The only thing I really want, especially after seeing the first 7 minutes of this thing, I just want that 7 minutes to go for a solid hour and a half. Like,
yeah. It has to check the same boxes as Godzilla versus Kong. It's like, what are you watching this movie for? It's not great story. It's not, character development. I'm watching this movie for Mortal Kombat, or I'm watching this movie for Godzilla versus Kong,
the actor that plays Sub-Zero, whose name is escaping me, he has signed for 4 additional Mortal Kombats.
Ooh.
So
I mean, based off of the first 7 minutes of the film, that is not a bad choice.
No, no, I'm all for it. So we're excited. We'll talk Mortal Kombat on the next episode and dive into some other stuff as well. Don't forget, we're going to be talking about Marvel and comic books just a little bit later after the headlines. James, I'm pulling this is part news, James, part soapbox. So I'll start with the news part before I get into my angry tirade. That I'll try to
get
keep
the soapbox while you're doing that.
Okay, here's the news. I'm waiting for the box to stand on so everybody in the universe can hear me. So StarWars.com released a press release thingy with an interview, basically announcing 4 Clone Wars Black Series figures. Now, that wouldn't be a big deal necessarily. I love my Black Series collection. I have a large IKEA shelving thing that I continuously back into, knocking all of my figures over, which means I have to put them back up. So got to rethink how I got that thing set up. But they've got 4 Star Wars, the Clone Wars action figures. And here's the kicker. Anakin and Obi-Wan are styled in their 2008 Clone Wars 3 3/4 inch style. So they look like they did when they were released in 2008, but now they're 6-inch Black Series figures. We're also getting Clone Pilot Hawk. He's a cool looking figure. And before I tell you who the last character is, and this is the reason why I'm kind of pissed, the figures are also being sold on 2008 card backs. So they look like the Clone Wars card backs that were on the shelves when I received a Darth Vader figure on my desk from Mr. James, number 2. So my Star Wars collecting renaissance began around that era when these Clone Wars figures were showing up on shelves, and I absolutely love that. It's the last time I can remember going into a store and seeing an entire aisle filled with Star Wars toys. Now you go to Walmart or Target and there's nothing there. There's literally absolutely nothing on the shelves anymore because either Hasbro has terrible distribution, which they do, or scalpers are showing up at 7, buying everything and throwing them online, which they're also doing. Here's the thing. So Obi-Wan, Anakin, Clone Pilot Hawk. Cool. Obi-Wan and Anakin, they're cool figures. I don't think that I'm going to buy them. But then they throw out a brand new figure that they've never, ever had, and that's an ARC Trooper version of Echo from the Clone Wars. He never he wasn't a part of the original Clone Wars line, to my knowledge. I don't remember him being there. They had other ARC Troopers, but not Echo. He's going to be impossible to find because this is a freaking Target exclusive, and I'm never going to get this. So this is me being very sad and being very angry that Hasbro is going to lose so much money. If they were just to make this available everywhere, they would sell a ton of this action figure. Echo is wildly popular, would sell out in no time. I'm hoping that he's only exclusive on this card back and he can get a regular line release later because it's a brand new sculpt. Why are they wasting it on this? Anywho, James, and Nathan, if you ever are at a Target and you come across this and he's there, I will pay you. I will pay you for your time, for your shipping, and for the figure. This is a desperate plea, less than a soapbox, I realize. Moving on, just to brief. May 4th is coming up. We're getting a 70-minute episode of The Bad Batch, which I'm incredibly excited about, and we will talk about it on the show. Come the May 4th episode. We got some other Star Wars stuff planned for that episode as well, but looking forward to that. All I'm asking is Star Wars, Hasbro, do better. I want to buy your stuff. Just give me the chance to not buy it from some loser on eBay.
He'll do it.
Even though I sell tons of stuff on eBay, so I'm not a loser, but
yours is all vintage though, so you're not scalping.
True. Yeah, I'm not a scalper.
You're like scalping 10 years later.
Mm-hmm.
But
scalping with forethought.
In other news, we talked earlier HBO Max, and it's going to have Mortal Kombat, but they announced recently that they are also going to be having the Batman's Jim Gordon show is going to premiere on there. HBO Max is bringing the Batman heat with the spinoff series Gotham PD. It'll focus on Police Commissioner James Jim Gordon. It's a prequel to the Matt Reeves movie that is coming out next year. And it's set during the first year of the superhero's career as a crime fighter. Reeves is producing and Joe Barton is the showrunner. I don't know who Joe Barton is, though, but that name sounds familiar.
He's Joe Barton, the showrunner.
Oh,
that's
good to know.
It's cool that HBO Max
Did he
is
run
really.
by any other shows?
I'm sure he has. You don't get this as your first show. Like, maybe he is. I don't know. HBO Max, they're doing Peacemaker, Peacekeeper, John Cena in Suicide Squad.
Oh, Peacekeeper, I think.
James, Nathan, corrections. if we say something totally wrong,
yeah,
when it
wait
comes
a
to
second.
comics.
Aren't they supposed to know?
Wait, but we're talking about Batman here, right?
We are talking about Batman.
Yeah, so we just jumped into the DC comic book game like about 3 weeks ago. So we're very extremely limited on our DC comic character knowledge. So we couldn't give you the right answer even if we wanted to.
Fair. Well, maybe this next story will help because it's going back into the Marvel universe. So Alfred Molina has confirmed that Dr. Octopus is coming back to Spider-Man No Way From Home. This is like one of the worst kept secrets in Hollywood when it comes to this movie because literally everybody is coming back for this. They're just not letting us know for sure. This is just the first time that it's been incredibly confirmed. Alfred Molina was speaking to Variety, and he confirmed reports that he's reprising his role that he originated in the 2004 Spider-Man 2. He said he's already shot it, and the film will show will somehow, he said, pick up the story from the moment the character died. And he said that in this universe, no one really dies, and that's what the director John Watts told him. You know what's interesting? I think that this is like, because we know in the upcoming Flash movie that we're likely to get Keaton back as Batman, and potentially others. I mean, if we're doing Flashpoint, that there's a ton of other DC characters that they could bring back. It's just that Spider-Man No Way Home is going to do it first.
Yeah, I find it interesting that the Spider-Man franchise, the movie franchise, is the one to be picked to dive into multiverse, with the Spider-Verse, obviously, when they did that, a couple of years back with Miles Morales. But I just find it interesting that he's the character that or the series that they're going to jump into this whole, multiple universes and different characters and variations. I figured Feige would cross that, Secret Wars door a little later.
Do you think that they're using Spider-Man as a way to kind of like ease people into this idea of the multiverse? Because Spider-Man is so approachable. He's more mainstream than Doctor Strange. Because we know Doctor Strange, we're going to get into the multiverse of madness. Like we're going to open the box. The door is going to open. And I think Spider-Man's a great place. It just does seem weird that he gets to have the honor of having the ability to kind of introduce this big concept to the MCU. Yeah,
I think it's just the way it's the easiest way in for Feige. I don't know what you think, Nate, but I just think it's less complicated, and I think it's a funny way to say it, but it's a less complicated way of like introducing multiple variations of characters rather than like jumping down the rabbit hole of like the Beyonder and like going down that hole.
Yeah, you've already lost me. I'm like, no, what is that?
Well,
Nate, what do you think?
I also think that, you were saying this a little bit earlier, but I think Spider-Man's just an easier pill to swallow for most consumers that aren't super familiar with the actual lore when we're dealing with an actual multiverse. Spider-Man's the household name of Marvel Comics. And so, even though we're dealing with a little bit of cosmic entities and space things, we're not getting wild and wacky like Guardians of the Galaxy did. We're a lot more straightforward. And I just think it's an easier pill to swallow for people the first time with the Spider-Man story. And I also think with the success of Spider-Verse already, some of the fans that are going to come into this have that mindset.
That's a good point.
If we were also it's just easier to film superheroes just in costumes. Could you imagine some of the more popular multiverse style characters like a Silver Surfer or any of the obscure entities like Eternity or something? Putting those on film is going to be so obscure and so difficult that I just think this makes it a really easy jumping on point.
Yeah, I think a big part of it too has to do with eyes. Like how many eyes are going to be seeing the Spider-Man versus the new Doctor Strange. It makes the most sense to pop it in Doctor Strange, but you're going to have more kids are probably watching Spider-Man than are watching Doctor Strange. And I think you're going to hit more of the general population. And I think obviously this is going to kick off phase 4, right? Or is it phase 4 now? Like this is going to be the thing that starts it all, right? Like this idea, everything else is going to revolve around this idea, I would assume.
I think within the Spider-Man universe, for sure, that's their next kick into like introducing more villains and just the whole Spider universe in general, for sure.
Yeah, because Phase 4 technically gets started with WandaVision.
WandaVision, yeah.
We got Falcon and the Winter Soldier going on right now, but Black Widow is set. Is a prequel. So there's a bunch to talk about, and it sounds like we're about ready to jump into the state of Marvel Comics in the MCU. So let's jump over to our feature presentation.
Pick up your visuals, counting.
This is a feature presentation.
And now, on with the show.
So we've got the state of Marvel Comics in the MCU. We've got the month of May coming up for comics, and we've got a couple pretty big events that are happening within the actual comic book industry. The first one that I'm super excited about, and I'm picking up every single event book that there is for it, is Jason Aaron's Heroes Reborn story arc. And I know Nathan is actually pretty much over Jason Aaron, but
no, not Jason Aaron. I'm just over this particular little storyline.
Right. And he's been kind of dragging it out for a while, not as much as Nick Spencer on his Spider-Man run. I always have to plug that in there. But he's getting ready to basically tell a story where the Avengers do not exist. And the Squadron Supreme is basically the ruling or the factor of protection around the world. So we're getting a 7-book arc of Heroes Reborn with this storyline of either, Iron Man not existing, Captain America never came out of the ice, stuff like that. And
I love that.
I think it's going to be a cool story. But that being said, this idea has been floating in Jason Aaron's Avenger run for a while now, at least a year. And so, some people are kind of already tired of it before it even started. So there's a mixed bag for this event, but I think it's going to be a fun one. I think we'll get a couple tie-ins that aren't necessarily really worth it. But, if you're the collector that wants to get every single book in this event, then this is starting off, I think, on the 5th. So right at the beginning of May, we get Heroes Reborn #1. So that's the one book that I'm pretty hyped for, just because we jumped off another event in King in Black with Venom. So now we're getting into like the Avengers and getting an Avenger-centric event within the Marvel.
Which I haven't read. I haven't read a ton of the books in the. I always want to say the Black King, the King in Black. Mm-hmm. I'm glad it's over.
We kind of are too. It was strung along for a while, and we're kind of diving deep in that, but Donny Cates we feel like he kind of ran out of steam a little bit. And so it definitely felt like it was time to be over and he's ready to kind of move on. So I'll be interested to see where Jason Aaron goes with this. And hopefully he doesn't have that same feeling of like extremely rushed and trying to pack so many ideas into it. So we'll have to wait and see.
I'm excited about the Heroes Reborn only because I love it when
Nate, what do you got?
We get some it says Jim, did you go offline? Did we lose Jim?
I don't think so. I thought I heard him.
You there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's happened twice now.
Oh,
did you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
No worries. Let me see. Let me start over. I'm really looking forward to the Heroes Reborn because I like it when comics do kind of that reset. and gives me a chance to jump in, because as much as I love being able to jump into some stories, and especially when there's like an event, I can feel like I'm at the beginning of something. But I'm not in college anymore, and I'm not in high school, where I'm just devouring everything that comes out. And so, back in, I can't remember when Ultimates came out.
2000.
Yeah, I know that it's not everybody's thing, but I really loved being able to just completely start fresh with everything, and for it to kind of just, build off of each other. As a fan of the X-Men as a whole, it's been difficult trying to jump in and catch up, and then for there to be it's so big that there's so many characters that I'm unfamiliar with, that there are storylines that I'm unfamiliar with, and it's hard for me to enjoy it as much because I feel like I have to do a lot of external reading.
Yeah, and especially with X-Men, it's almost like Marvel has created its own imprint that is specifically for mutants, because you've got, I think we're up to 12 or 13 ongoings right now. Plus the one good thing is that they're not throwing out event books. The events that are happening concurrently in the monthly issues. So at least they're not trying to pile on event books and tie-ins as well. But speaking of events and tie-ins as well, Star Wars is actually coming out with a new event as well. And it's called War of the Bounty Hunters. It starts in May. This is basically a giant crossover of all of the current Marvel Star Wars books. So you have just a traditional Star Wars book, you have Darth Vader, Bounty Hunters, and you have Dr. Aphra. And all of these books are going to essentially cross over in a war for Han Solo's body. So everyone's, trying to collect on that. And then, of course, Leia and Luke are trying to save their friend. And we basically get a clashing of 4 different interested parties trying to,
Where are we in the timeline still? Is this?
This is between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi.
Gotcha. So Han's in Carbonite.
Han's in Carbonite. Yep. So he's basically just a block floating around the Star Wars universe, and everyone is fighting for him.
I would have suspected Boba went directly from Cloud City to Jabba's palace. Is this? I'm totally out of the loop when it comes to the Star Wars comics right now. Besides High Republic.
Yes. So I'm not 100% caught up, so I don't remember exactly how, but this event basically starts with Boba Fett getting his ship blown out of the sky while he has Han while he's on the way to Jabba. And so it's almost like we had that linear segue, and then we're just sort of taking a big giant left turn, little squigglies, and then we'll be back where we're supposed to be.
I was going to say, don't we know how this ends up?
We do. We certainly do. So, I think a lot of fans are looking at this and saying, like, this is a really unnecessary story, just because we know how it's going to end. I think what is probably going to give this series a little bit more merit is the building of some characters that are probably going to be pretty prominent in future Star Wars plans, like Dr. Aphra, like Boba Fett. Seeing him show up in Mandalorian. Obviously, we're going to have some post original trilogy appearances of him. So I think that they're trying to use this event to build up some of these secondary characters and make them more important.
Do you think they're going to take the opportunity to completely change the way we see how Han got to Jabba's palace? We just assume Boba Fett delivered him.
No, unfortunately, I think it's probably just how it's going to end up is at the very end of War of the Bounty Hunters, Boba Fett's going to quote unquote win. And then
what are they going to do? Are they going to piss off all the Star Wars fans? I mean, what, look, I don't think they can, at this point, they can do whatever they want because they know it doesn't matter what they do. They're going to piss off some segment of the fandom. It's just like, take some big swings.
Well, I agree. And normally I would be a little bit worried. The thing that actually makes me a little bit secure with what's going to happen here is that Charles Soule is the one that is the architect of this event.
Okay.
So he is writing the current Star Wars title, and then there's an alpha and omega, basically a beginning and an end to just the series, and he's writing both of those issues as well. So
fantastic.
If there's anyone that I think can do an appropriate story here, it's Charles Soule.
Side note, the director's cut cover for the Bounty Hunters Alpha is freaking fire. It's Boba Fett in an all black outfit. It's freaking cool.
Just like in the movie. Well, that's cool. So before we move on from comics, is there anything else further out besides looking at May? Is there anything that's coming up on the horizon that if you're looking to get into Marvel Comics, if you're looking to, get back into the collecting or just reading, something that is maybe on the horizon to be looking out for?
I would say, well, speaking of Marvel, X-Men is about to quote unquote be rebooted with a new X-Men title. And, me and Nate have talked about this on the show. We're kind of projecting that it's going to be somewhat of a lighter read rather than what Hickman has been writing, which it might be your cup of tea. It may not be, but I think we're going to get a little bit more of a classic in continuity X-Men run starting in, is it July? I think it's July.
In July. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, that just got me really excited. Like you guys have no idea. Like it's like I feel like it's work right now to try because like I'm playing catch up. I'm reading the X-Men books on Marvel Unlimited, and I really loved the House of X and that whole like y'all suggested on a previous, and I was like, okay, like this is cool. And then we get into the regular run and there's all these other books. And I'm like, there's just too many. There's too many things. There's too many things. Just give me like a bad guy of the week. Let me defeat the bad guy and let's move on. Come on. So that's just, I know it sounds very old fashioned, but that's okay. Well, that's cool. I'm looking forward to that. Let's look at what's coming down. Not everybody's a comic book reader, and a lot of people consume their Marvel through their eyes via television and movies. We're at the disadvantage that we record this show on the eve of the finale of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So it would be kind of like dumb for us to be like, this is how we think it's going to end because this show is going to drop tomorrow. But I mean, clearly, Sam is going to be Captain America.
Yes.
Right? Like, okay. So we're all in agreement because Hallmark didn't put out their Christmas catalog and accidentally put out a Sam as Captain America Christmas ornament already or anything, and we didn't totally already see the costume that's in the box. Thanks a lot, Hallmark. Did not have you on my bingo card to spoil Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Thank you very much.
It's always a toy or a Christmas ornament or a piece of clothing that spoils it.
Yeah. But just
note, I didn't know that the Kmart version of Captain America was played by Kurt Russell's son.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Anyways, just a thought.
Wyatt Russell
that's his name.
He should totally they should reboot Stargate and he should play his father's character. Like he said that he would never play his father's characters. Like in an interview because they were talking about Snake Plissken. And he was like, that would be career suicide to play my father's character. No, here's what's career suicide: playing bad guy Captain America.
I didn't know the person existed before he played bad guy Captain America. So
I think it's really unfortunate because he actually has portrayed John Walker, the character, superbly.
Yeah,
all the feelings that you have for him, that irritation, that's exactly what people felt when he was introduced in the comics, and that was the way he was presented. So I actually think he's done a phenomenal job.
He looks like the bad Santa Claus from the Santa Claus 2. It's a deep cut reference, but if you know it,
if you know, you know.
That's right.
How do we feel though? Because this was supposed to be the first out of the gate Marvel series. It got delayed. Fun fact, something that I just recently saw because I watched those YouTube videos that point out the little things. This movie got delayed because of the pandemic. They went back and they did some reshoots, but it does seem like there was a virus like subplot that was recut. Because when we see the Flag Smashers, they're moving these boxes and they all have like the words like vaccine and stuff printed on it. I don't know where I was going with that necessarily. Just like I felt like that was interesting, but clearly
I don't think it hindered it if they did do reshoots. It definitely they masked it pretty well if that's the case.
Any other before we move on from Falcon and the Winter Soldier? Nate, James number one, feelings on it so far now that it's ending?
I got to be honest, I'm not caught up, so I was going to wait until Friday, and then I'm probably going to just mainline it this weekend.
Watch a 6-hour movie.
I've seen the first 3 episodes, but I haven't seen the 4th, 5th, or 6th, which is coming out this week.
It's how I wish I could have watched it, to be honest. Yeah. I love weekly drops of television shows, especially WandaVision did it so perfectly in the kind of that mystery box, kind of like, I don't know where this is going. I have so many questions. There's just so much to speculate on. And this is a 6-hour movie, which is great. It's just like, I'm going to open up this box now. Guess what? The episode's over. Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, I think I think the first 3 episodes I had flashbacks of WandaVision drops every week. But yeah, towards the end of the series, I'm kind of like, all right, let's get this going. Like,
yeah. So let's before we talk about what's on the horizon, let's talk about what's happening right now. And that's we got the teaser trailer for Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I'm so excited about this movie because I don't know anything about this character.
I'm in the same box. I read one of the like miniseries that came out a couple months ago, but I'm in the same boat. I didn't know what to expect, and then the trailer dropped, and was instantly pumped. I didn't know what to expect, and I think we had kind of a dialogue on social media about it, like saying we just don't know. Seeing the trailer, we were kind of iffy on it, and then when we saw it, we were kind of like, oh yeah, this feels like a Marvel production, and they're doing it the right way. At least that's how I interpret it, not knowing much about Shang-Chi.
It looks very cool. I know nothing about the character. And yeah, it looks like a different Marvel movie. Not many of them deal strictly with kind of the martial arts. And except I guess Doctor Strange kind of did a little bit from like the training perspective, but actually from the combat perspective is obviously very different. So I'm excited to see how they do it.
Nate, are you like I don't know between you and James, like which one is the one that knows the most. I know that you have the most books behind you when you on your show, which makes me think that you read a lot. Are you really familiar with Shang-Chi? Or are you with us? Like, are you kind of in the dark when it comes to this character and his arc?
I'm like you guys. I'm pretty in the dark. You know, it's a character that has been out of continuity for a really long time. I will say though that a lot of his rogue of villains end up with a lot of more cosmic heroes, and so I think that there's probably going to be a little bit of an interesting twist in this movie that maybe you're not expecting from a primarily martial arts film, but I think we're going to get a little bit spacey there at the end, or at least maybe in some that's cool. After movie credits or something.
One of the things that jumped out at me is, are we dealing with like this? Is this the real Mandarin? Like not Trevor, but like, is this where we get like the real Mandarin? Because the 10 rings is the same looking logo we got in Iron Man 3.
Yeah, I do think that this is the original Mandarin. That whole move with Iron Man was kind of strange because Mandarin is originally an Iron Man villain first. So I'm not sure why we didn't just have the real guy there, but I definitely think this time we have the real guy.
And,
you didn't like Trevor?
They mentioned the 10 rings in Iron Man 1. That's the weirdest part.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah, like on the newscast when he came home or whatever.
God, now I got to rewatch all of
You don't have to. You can just Google it.
No, I mean,
it's there for you. It's there for you just to Google.
No, man, it's the work from home life. I can put anything on an iPad.
We can share screens and I can do it for you later. I don't want you to have to watch that whole movie again just for the 3-second clip of them mentioning the 10 rings.
Well, it just feels like there's so much that you miss, and Marvel's just so incredibly good at packing the background with detail that pays off like so much later.
Also, I'm pretty sure it was the name of like the gang that kidnapped him. Was the 10 rings.
Yeah, and also like with Iron Man 1, the idea of the MCU was not even, they didn't even know if Iron Man was going to work. So they had to throw in every kind of little Easter egg they could
So we
in
get
that
like
first movie.
Is that we get a little peek at Captain America's shield? Kind of. It was like broken or in bits and something.
This is what could be if you decide to actually like this movie.
Right. Exactly. Just a little tease. You like this? You like this Marvel? You like this? Huh? Yeah.
Look where we're now.
Yeah. Disney's gonna buy us out, and then Paramount's gonna keep getting money anytime Iron Man's on here. So we're gonna have to kill Tony Stark, so we don't have to do Iron Man anymore. Huh? Yeah. You know, it reminds me, James, when we were talking, especially when we first started the podcast, you know, so many years ago, the old one especially, when Guardians was coming out, we were like, who are these people? I don't know anything about them. I have no preconceived notions of what this is supposed to be. It's the first time we're going into space with Marvel. And that was such a rewarding payoff to not do a ton of research on these characters going in.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to live life that way, Chris.
You mean checking Star Wars leaks on Reddit like constantly is ruining
It's actually pretty interesting to not know what's going on 1,000% of the time.
Are you telling me that people like to be surprised?
Yeah.
Well, I think it also is a testament to Marvel and Feige to like actually plan something out and go, all right, here's our chest of things. What can we pick out of it and make it worth people's time? And then expand on that, making money wise, you know, comics, toys, whatever. You know, they've done a really good job with that. And Shang-Chi is just the next one. And I think we're going to get that with Moon Knight and every other, even Eternals. I know a lot of people are not excited about Eternals, but I think Eternals are going to do the same thing.
I think that's a great transition, James, because you're talking about them planning out everything that's coming. This is a good opportunity to kind of like lay it on out there. Here's what's on the way, guys. We've got the finale of Falcon and the Winter Soldier dropping as the podcast drops, so we're going to be watching it as well as you know y'all this weekend. But we got Loki coming June 11th. Super pumped about this. I've been wanting to fast forward through Falcon and the Winter Soldier just to get to this. It just looks weird and funny and interesting and everything I want in a Marvel TV show. Black Widow moved again. You know, it was going to be May, and now it's July 9th, premiering in theaters and on Disney Plus Premium Access. I will be seeing that one in theaters, folks. I'm vaccinated. I got the Regal Unlimited pass. I'm going to see that in theaters. Nice. Shang-Chi is coming out September 3rd, followed by the Eternals. I want to pause here. James, you mentioned people not being excited about the Eternals. Is it just because we don't know what this even is?
I think that's a really, I believe that's the case. I just think, like, for me and Nate, we're actually reading the current Eternals comic book that's out right now. And even in that, there's so much, like, you read it and you go, well, I don't know what that is. So you do your Google research on it or your Wikipedia. But I think that's another franchise that Marvel is going to go, you know nothing about this. We're going to not necessarily spoon feed you it, but by the end of this film, you're going to want to go out and pick up an Eternals comic book or omnibus or trade and really get to know the characters. Because, I mean, it's classic Jack Kirby character development, right, Nate?
Yeah. Well, and I also think that using characters like Eternals and Shang-Chi, they don't have 60 years of continuous continuity like Spider-Man does. And so there's a lot more wiggle room for them to use these characters and sort of mold them to make sure that they fit the MCU properly. And so I think that they're kind of doing both at the same time. They're using some characters that have information so that if you like them, you can go out and buy more stuff, you know, for that character, but also not so much continuity that people are just going to be screaming at you about how much you've changed it and how much you ruined their favorite characters, because there really aren't too many people out there that are going, oh, the Eternals are my favorite characters.
They're out there, guys.
there are people out there, I'm sure.
That's the one thing. You can go on the internet and you can find a group of people who are obsessed about Sequest, and that is their primary fandom. I'm not lying. I'm a part of the Facebook group.
You can find those people, and sometimes you realize that they were right alongside you the whole time.
It was me all along. Okay, cool. I mean, the Eternals, the thing is, it's kind of like the cast is all A-list.
It's stacked for sure. Yeah.
Like it's just weird. And I know it's because of the pandemic, but we're less than a year away and we've seen nothing besides concept art, basically.
Concept art. And I think people that are familiar with the
stickers.
comics, that yeah,
Some stickers leaked.
like the biggest thing I think we have that we're super excited about is because the Eternals deal with this, and I don't think a lot of people know that, is that it deals with the Celestials, and we're gonna get more. There is,
Which what?
you know,
What?
just
What?
yeah, exactly. So we had a little bit of Celestial talk in Guardians, the first movie.
That's true.
And so I think if you've read the comics and you know kind of the Eternal background, they're basically the creators. The Celestials created the Eternals, if I'm not mistaken, right, Nate? So we're gonna get more unpacking of those cosmic beings, which, you know, I'm about. I know Nathan's definitely about. Cosmic is like his big thing when it comes to comics. And so I think we're going to get a big unpacking of that in this movie, because they're basically the lifeblood of of the MCU.
I'm looking forward to it just because I'm looking forward to be back in theaters, you know, and getting to see these big epic events, and again, not knowing much about these characters and all that brings that level of surprise that it's, you know, like James says, apparently is really nice. We have Spider-Man No Way Home coming December 17th. There are 2 other Marvel movies, Marvel series coming to Disney Plus that we don't have dates yet. We've got Hawkeye and Miss Marvel, which are slated for late 2021, I'm assuming in the fall. Jeremy Renner went to Twitter and posted something about them wrapping shooting. So they must be finished. I think Miss Marvel is either finished or about to be finished with their shooting as well. So we'll have more about that coming late 2021. Nate and James, thank you guys so much for coming on to talk comics and Marvel. You guys are pumping out the content. Where can people follow, subscribe, and like? And I do believe, and I hope it's not over yet, but I know y'all are doing a giveaway, and I want the Geek State people to know about it so they can get in on this.
So you can find us at youtube.com/c/2fatguyspool to subscribe. We are doing a giveaway. We're giving away comic book slabs at certain subscriber milestones. So we just recently hit 100. And yeah, that seems like small potatoes, but that's a big deal for us just because we've kind of started this, at least being on YouTube, I don't know, about a month ago. So we've kind of jumped our subscriber number pretty high. So now we're going to 250, which we're giving away a 9.8 CGC graded Batman Who Laughs #1. And then when we hit 500, we're giving away a Wolverine #1 from his first ongoing series in 1988, I believe. That's a 9.6. And then we've got another book that we're giving away at 1,000 subscribers, which Nate, every time I talk about it, he gets very upset with me because he doesn't want me to give it away. It's a 9.8 CBCS graded Original Sin Amazing Spider-Man #4, the first appearance of Silk. So we're talking about the Spider-Verse. There's a lot of, you know, talk about her possibly showing up in one of these Spider-Man movies. And so that book and that character herself is jumping up in value. So when we hit 1,000 subscribers,
y'all might have second thoughts.
You know,
I keep telling him that. I mean, literally, James bought this book, I don't know, a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, and that book has already risen about 60-75% in its fair market value. So,
well, you heard it here on the podcast. You can't go back. There's no changing things.
No, we are going to give that away, and then also you can find us on Instagram at 2fatguyspoolist and on Facebook. We do have a Twitter. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can too. But most of our social interactions are on Instagram and Facebook, and obviously YouTube.
Yeah, I just want to make it clear. I want Geek State people to win these. So y'all need to go over and subscribe and like all their videos when they come out. I it's my Wednesday thing, like where I'm at work and I'm kind of like daydreaming about like lunch break, and I see the haul video and I'm like, okay, I'm dang it, I'm going to the shop.
That's why we make it. We want to make sure that you're informed to know what to pick up.
It's timely, man. It's timely. It's out exactly at the right time when I need it, and it gives me something to look forward to for Wednesday. So appreciate it, guys. Make sure you follow them. 2 Fat Guys Pull List. They're on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter if you'd want to. And y'all do the live show on YouTube as well. When is that? Is it on Fridays?
Yeah, it's on Fridays at 8 p.m.
8 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Let's look around the region and take our pick of the week.
Shut up and take my money.
All right, it's time for our pick of the week, which, it's where James and I like to recommend something. Maybe it's something old, maybe it's something new. Or it could just be whatever we're into right now. James, I'm feeling generous. I'm feeling generous this week. I know I spent a lot of time this week talking, so I want to give the floor to you.
Yeah, no worries.
And let you go first.
Absolutely. My suggestion is, you just mentioned with Two Fat Guys Pull List, once you get done watching their content on YouTube, when I'm sitting at my office or in my office at my house working, I do like to have the iPad up with some sort of podcast or video content going just to keep me company. But one podcast that I found during the pandemic, and more specifically a small podcast network, is called the No Press Network. And this is started by, if you know Impractical Jokers, Sal Vulcano. He's one of the 4 guys from that. He started this small podcast network. It's just 2 podcasts right now. One is called, I don't even know what the first one's called. Hey Babe. It's called Hey Babe. It's him and Chris Stefano, which is a New York comic. It's pretty good. But the one that I like the most is called Taste Buds. And this is Sal Vulcano and Joe DeRosa, who is both a New York comic and a sandwich shop owner, and they debate foods. So they always pick 2 foods that you would go head to head with, whether it be sausage or bacon, or one week it was Fruity Pebble or Cocoa Pebbles versus Fruit Loops. They've done different ones like that. And it's quite hilarious. They're very funny. What they do is, when they first start debating, they open up a poll on Twitter and let people respond to the poll. And that's how they determine who won the argument. But it is quite funny, quite entertaining. They're very funny. And I believe for the most part, it is relatively, I would say, PG-13. So, okay. I think they do beep out any curse words that they do and slip and say, but not a bunch of not the big not ones. New York comedy. They actually do it as a test for their comedic, because a lot of people say that comics rely on cursing and R-rated material, and they do this as like an aside to keep them on their toes. Very cool. Let's see. My pick of the week is a retro pick of the week. So just some backstory. I'm trying, I do this every once in a while, James, where I'm like, I want to get rid of my streaming, like my television provider. I don't watch it enough. I've got AT&T TV, by the way. It's fine. It's just, they keep raising the prices. And, now that I'm in the city, I'm like, well, let me see if I can get an antenna hooked up. It's such a challenge. Trying to get all the channels that I want where I am located. But while I was doing it, I was messing around with my TV, and it has all these like free television channels on like the smart TV, and it just adds it in with the channel lineup. And I was just kind of going through the hundreds of garbage channels that are on there, and I came across Shout Factory, and they were airing a full day marathon of Mask, which I absolutely loved as a kid and loved the toys. Are y'all familiar with Mask at all? Or am I the like super old guy in the room that this sounds like garbage to you? Like you don't even have any idea what Mask is. I know what Mask is.
Yeah, the Jim Carrey movie.
No. Negative.
I was about to say the same thing.
No, Mask is an acronym. Mask combined the best things of G.I. Joe with the cool toy transforming stuff of like Transformers into like one show. So you have
Mobile Armored Strike Command with a K.
That's right. And they fought the evil forces of Venom, not Cobra, Venom. They had like cars that transformed into like, cooler cars, basically. They weren't robots, but it was like, here's a 57 Chevy that turns into like a tank. Or a big red truck that, gets beefier with more guns and stuff. And so it's called Mask because, not only is it an acronym, but also all of the characters, when they go into battle, put on a big old mask. So all the toys, you got to put the masks on and stuff. It's rad. I'd forgotten, I mean, I didn't never forgot it. It's always been in my heart, but I forgot how much I enjoyed it. And so I caught myself just like watching this like all day marathon of Mask, which is on Shout Factory. And I think you can just stream it for free on there, but they have an IPTV channel that was just showing it. So check it out. And since it's a retro thing, something to look forward to coming up, our friends over at the Retro Zap network of podcasts have a new one. We've had these guys on the podcast before, but they've got a brand new show coming out. Techno Retro Dads just ended their podcast run after I don't know how many years, 7 to 8 years. They started their podcast around the same time we started S'more Geeks,
right? And
they just now decided to call it on Techno Retro Dads. But they got a new show called Enjoy Stuff. It's premiering in May, and they've invited us to be on. I'm sure we'll have them on as well to talk about it. So you can go and start following the Retro Zap podcast network. And when their new show pops up, you'll get their show automatically. So loving some retro stuff recently. So I did mention at the top of the show about stickers. I do want to say, after kind of divvying out, like, okay, I know I want one and James gets one. There's not going to be that many left over in this first initial run, but I want to make sure that everybody that wants one gets one. So here's how it's going to work. This is how you're going to tell me that you want one. And this is, you got to help us promote the show a little bit. We've been gone for a little bit, the hiatus. Thankfully, you guys are still here. But we need more members of the Geek State. So we need y'all to help us share our show posts on Twitter. You can do, put us in your story on Instagram, share us on Facebook. That'll let me know that you're interested in a sticker. And I'll reach out to you about getting you a sticker. I'll get your address and stuff via DM on whatever platform you do that on. So I'll be looking out for that this week. And once the stickers are gone, that's okay. Keep sharing. I will remember. I'm placing another order to get more. I placed kind of like a trial order just to see the quality of these stickers, and they are chef's kiss, primo. I'm loving. They are quality stickers. So if you want one, just share our stuff on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, and that will let me know that you're interested in getting one. And that about does it for the podcast. And so glad that you are here. From all of us here at the Geek State, stay excellent to each other, and we'll see you next time.
Mask, where illusion is the ultimate weapon.
Convert switchblade to jet mode. Surprise, Matt Tracker. It's Mayhem. Battle station. Protect your decoder, Bruce. I'm going up. Stacks ready to fire.
Mask, Switchblade, Thunderhawk, and Rhino.
Fire!
Each sold separately with action figure.
Cover me, Matt. 10-4. Sato's getting away, but you're not, Mayhem.
Mask, Switchblade, Thunderhawk, and Rhino. Each sold separately. New from Kenner.
I thought you were going to save the Commissioner Gordon for the end and say it was a very Jim-heavy episode.
Oh, damn it. That's a good one. It's just they don't know what that means yet. Okay.
That's why I'm here.
Have you ever seen the movie That Thing You Do?
Yeah.
Yeah, that part where they're in the when they're in the
that thing you do.
When they're in the radio
Colin
station,
Hanks, right? He's in that.
It's Tom Hanks.
It's Tom Hanks. He was just so young back then. He looks like Colin
Steve
Hanks.
Zahn.
When they're in the radio station and they think they're going to have like a long talking segment and they're like, say hi guys. And they're like, hi. And then that's all they're in there for.